can be mind-blowing if I think about it from time to time. It's beyond like a dream come true. I mean, I remember one time it was either my mother or somebody else when I was like going into debt, and I went to school for graphic design and I was teaching, but I always had this passion for these weird paintings, and she's like, "What's your dream? What are you really trying to do?" And I'm like, "I just want people to care when I draw something." I don't know how to describe this stuff. I mean, it's a lot of monsters, a lot of fuzzy little things. Yeah, it's like psychedelic, stony cartoons. I do kind of gig poster stuff, and then I sell my own art. Lately, I've probably been more inspired by my children and childhood, and I've probably toned it down, but I've always been, even as a gig poster artist, I've been a little softer, a little more whimsical, a little less TNA and skulls and that kind of stuff. I'm a little more psychedelic cartoon. I'm still a cartoonist. I'm still inspired by Jim Henson and Dr. Seuss and all that stuff. You don't know. Yeah, I just lived in ponds as a kid. I mean, just feel like that stuff comes out of me really naturally. The way plants grow inspires me. Even watching time-lapse of starfish or time-lapse of trees and thinking of those things as living entities with personality, and thinking of all of nature and the way it grows together and the symbiotic relationship between characters or things in nature. Really, it's something I do in my work. All my animals have a little bird living on their horns or a little guy in their pocket, and they're eating a fruit off of a nearby tree that's, showing them some enlightenment or whatever it is. It's all definitely stems back to my childhood in Wisconsin. I did a lot of printmaking in college, along with the painting. And the screen prints is just a great way to, I could give them to people. And even back then, I would do them all in different colors and figure out, just enjoy the process and see what came out of it. So screen printing has its challenges and its limitations, but that's why I'm continually drawn to it, because I can make kind of unique work. The inks have a texture, there's something to it. It's not just a printout, but I can get a lot out to a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that want it, and that's great. I want them to have it to some extent. I want them to be jonesing just a little bit, but I want them to have it. I've lived in some other really secluded places. When I really got going in posters, I lived out in the boonies near Sequoia National Park. That's why I painted Branch with Birds and calmer pieces. Spring Swing came out of that period. I barely saw people, and we were just living in nature every day, and that was kind of I feel like that's when people found my work in a new way, so I'm never gonna suppress that part of my style. I find that my artistic inspiration as a child is more limited and pocketed than a lot of my contemporaries. I found Garbage Pail Kids, so I'd buy all those to find all the illustrations. I didn't skateboard, but I got my friends' catalogs, and I would just pore over those catalogs. In high school, I even got the first Art of Rock catalogs, which were catalogs to buy reprints of the 60s posters. Other than that, my inspirations are real basic shit, Seuss, Fraggles. First band that really gave me my shot at this whole scene before there was any reason to really hire me was the Black Crowes, and they were one of my favorite bands growing up. And so it was just kind of a dream come true in the beginning. And I put everything into that for a while and realized, I need to work for a lot more bands to make this a career. It was all my dreams came true, but then none of the finances really made sense yet. I started working for the Fillmore out in San Francisco, who was responsible for some of the best posters that I was inspired by from the 60s. So having both those jobs in tandem beginning in my career was just wonderful. When I first started working for Widespread Panic, they were one of my first screen print posters, and they were certainly my first sellout for me. When I sold my artist edition, I think it was only 50 at that time, but I sold them all in a day, and I'm just whoa, this is something, this is a scene. The show is the night before Widespread Panic 2 at Red Rocks, and I did a poster for that. So I've probably been doing stuff for them for about, 8 years, and I've done some album covers for them, and they're a huge client of mine, and I've done a lot of Dead stuff in recent years as well. I gotta mention Dinosaur Jr. too. They're big for me as well, and their management is shared with schools a little bit, so I think there might be a connection there, but doing some of those album covers have been just nice exposure to a different audience. So we're at Furthur Frames. This is down in Denver. I just have all my minis here, and Cory and his team here at Furthur Frames has framed each one really unique with all their artistic skill they have in framing. Yeah, I was just telling them I couldn't see doing this with anybody else. This is a very unique experience, and I do all these really small pieces, so it fits well with all these small, fun frames, and each one of these pieces is embellished, and these are all the mini prints I've done over the years. There's like 115 minis here and a couple full-size prints. Print these prints on all different colors. So we just selected a nice variety, and I played with these things for like 2-3 months, and here they all are.
I mean, I started as a collector in my early days of going to concerts and collecting posters. Actually, I got kind of sucked into the vintage scene first. Got hooked on the art of rock. The blossoming of the modern scene happened while I was in the middle of it. It was interesting to watch it develop out of the 90s and into the 2000s. That's how I got into posters, just pretty much like everybody else by association. Like Marq was saying, we mix really well, for one. I like his playful style, and I have frames that I don't get to use on a whole lot of stuff that I get to use on his stuff. Tonight's gonna be an awesome showcase of that. I'm really proud of being able to see 127 of his minis all framed up. We didn't hold back on any of them, and neither did he. That symbiotic relationship where he's feeding us and we're feeding him, and he's sending me a stack of 20 prints, and each one is better than the last. That's the kind of energy that he was feeding us, and we put it back into our work. For the last 4 weeks, we've had someone pretty much consistently working on Marq's stuff every day, all day. It's always great to know that they're getting as inspired and fed, and I'm telling him we're jamming along, and suddenly I've got another box arriving on our doorstep, and I always like that. This is Furthur Frames' 9th anniversary tonight. We're gonna be celebrating that as well.
These are my people, they're all giving me good vibes, coming here, giving each other good energy, and I think this show seems like that vibe is really strong right now, so that's cool. My work is available. Like, I know it's hard to get, and I know drops are hard to get. I'm looking to get a lot of people involved. I definitely have different tiers. You can buy originals, you can buy weird variants. Talking to this guy here that helped me set up the show, he's like, I started with the micros. I started with these little things you give away free because I loved your work, and it shows your work, and it shows your screen prints. So I think that has made it like kind of a group hug for a lot of people. It's like something they can trade, something they can share, they can show off their collection. Their collection is very different from somebody else. And I think the style of work and the tone of the work has kind of brought a group of like-minded people together in some way.